Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you straight into a future that is, well, a lot closer than you might think, especially if you've ever tried to navigate the world of property ownership, whether you're, buying your first home or managing an investment portfolio. Our mission today is very specific. We're analyzing the huge transformation predicted for Jamaican real estate over the next 2 decades. We're looking at the arc from 2025 all the way to 2045.
And that 2045 timeline is so important for this. It's really the core of the whole analysis.
Mm.
The sources we've looked at make this really powerful argument. They say, if a Jamaican child is born today, the world they enter as a young adult, say when they're looking to buy property in 20 years, it will be completely unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable how?
It's a dual world. You have the physical land, the actual building, but it's wrapped in this intelligent, responsive digital layer. And this isn't just about making transactions faster. It's a total shift in how we even perceive property.
That's exactly what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not talking about small updates here. Our sources today are two incredibly forward-looking pieces. They forecast this profound transformation, focusing on real estate platforms, on ownership models, and, the changes to urban living and investing in Jamaica. And the thesis they both seem to share is that this isn't a gentle evolution. They actually call it a mutation.
It is. It really is a mutation. The sources argue that the age of AI isn't just about making things faster or more efficient. It's about connecting intelligence to intention.
Okay, what do they mean by that? Intelligence to intention.
It means the systems know what you want, often before you can even properly articulate it, and they act on that knowledge automatically. And that combination of high-level intelligence and immediate action is what's going to shake one of the world's oldest, most manual, and frankly most opaque industries, real estate, right down to its foundations. We're going to unpack how that seismic shift is going to impact everything from how you ask a question about a home to how you eventually hold the title.
Okay, let's start unpacking that shift, beginning with the absolute core infrastructure, the digital front door, the website. For the last 20 years, a website has been, the standard thing, a brochure, a list, a place to put your number. But the analysis we have here calls AI the second advent. That sounds foundational.
It is. We have to stop thinking of AI as just a feature, like adding a new plugin or a little chat bot that pops up. The sources are really clear on this. AI is a new environment. To get the scale, you have to compare it to other big leaps. Think about electricity. It didn't just automate a few tasks. It completely redefined every industry, every part of daily life. Or the printing press, which changed how we store and share knowledge itself.
So AI isn't just a tool you use on the internet. It's almost like it is the new layer of the internet. If the old internet connected pages to pages with links, AI connects intelligence to intention. It's about understanding, predicting, and acting. That sounds incredibly powerful, but also pretty risky for anyone still doing things the old way.
It is very risky. And that idea, that connection between intelligence and intention, it immediately kills the old metaphor we've all been using for decades, the shop window.
The shop window.
Yeah, we used to build a website, put our best listings out front, clean it up, and just hope people would walk by our digital storefront. That metaphor of a static display waiting for foot traffic.
Yeah.
It's officially dead in the age of AI.
So if the website isn't a shop window anymore, what is it? What's the new model for a digital real estate company?
The sources outline a complete redesign. The website is no longer a static display. It becomes the central nervous system of the brand, or the brand's anchor. Think of it as the ultimate source of truth. It's the secure, controlled home base that lets the brand exist everywhere else online. Social media, voice assistants, inside other AI systems, without getting its data mixed up or contradicting itself.
That makes a lot of sense. If you're going to be in a dozen places at once, you need one brain they all feed from. If you don't have that central nervous system, your brand, especially in real estate where data has to be perfect, it just becomes a ghost drifting through other people's systems, as they put it.
Exactly. And to be that central nervous system, the website has to do this intense, continuous work in the background that goes way beyond just how it looks. It has to constantly feed clean, structured data to AI crawlers. It needs to integrate seamlessly with voice search. It has to be constantly training the recommendation engines that will be serving personalized feeds to you.
And this demands just absolute data integrity. If the website is the anchor, the data has to be pristine. So structured, clean, authoritative, and perfectly controlled. That detail is what gives you credibility when the AI middleman comes along. And this really brings home that powerful quote from one of the sources. A website used to be a place you visited. The future website is a presence that follows you.
That's the key. Survival belongs to the brands that can live everywhere, on YouTube, social platforms, inside AI assistants, but are absolutely anchored by their own controlled, high-integrity data. If you lose control of your data, you lose control of your identity. And nowhere is this shift more obvious than in search, which changes in three fundamental ways. It moves completely away from just relying on keywords.
Let's break those three changes down. The first one seems the most intuitive for a user: conversational search. We've all used Google, typing in simple keywords. How is conversational AI different for, say, a Jamaican buyer looking for property?
It moves way beyond just basic database queries. So you no longer type in a static command like three-bedroom houses in Kingston under $30 million dollars with a pool. That's too blunt. Now you can ask these complex, nuanced questions that mix your lifestyle, your emotional wants, and practical needs into a single query.
Give us an example. What does that kind of complex question sound like? What does the AI need to be able to understand?
The source has this brilliant, very culturally relevant example. The user asks the AI, "Show me homes in Kingston where a dog would be happy, close to a good school for my youngest, and preferably with a mango tree in the yard." You see the layers there. The AI has to figure out happy dog. That probably means a yard, maybe a safe neighborhood. Good school means it needs to tap into education rating data. And mango tree, that's a very specific non-structured data point. It probably needs image recognition or something. And the key thing is, the AI doesn't just give you 10 links to browse through. It returns specific, curated, definitive answers based on interpreting all that.
That's a huge leap in how the data underneath has to be structured. Which I guess brings us to the second big shift. AI personalization outperforms browsing. So the dynamic flicks. You don't browse the website, or the platform browses you.
Precisely. The intelligent platform will know your history, your preferences, your capabilities with this unprecedented depth. Of course, this all has to be done with your explicit permission, strong data governance.
Pat.
But assuming that trust is there, the platform becomes your active advisor. It knows your financial patterns, your exact pre-approved price range, your timeline for moving, your style preferences from past searches, everything.
So instead of scrolling through this endless, overwhelming list of listings, you get a curated feed that's constantly updating as your needs change or as new properties hit the market that perfectly match your criteria, even criteria you haven't said out loud. It's proactive, not reactive.
Think about the time you'd save. We waste hours sifting through irrelevant listings today. In 2035, the platform is working for you 24/7 as your private agent. If a property with the perfect school rating, the right price, and a big backyard in, say, Clarendon, hits the market, you know about it instantly, no matter where you are in the world.
And the third layer is probably the most disruptive for the industry itself: the rise of the AI middleman. We're talking about general tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and others. They evolve from being simple assistants into the new search engines.
This is a profound shift because these powerful AIs become the gatekeepers of information. The source uses a great analogy. If Google was the librarian of the internet, AI is the private tutor. It reads everything, but it handpicks only what serves the student. So if your real estate website's data isn't structured, clean, and clear for that AI interpreter, the tutor will just ignore you. Your brand could become totally invisible no matter how good your old SEO was.
That makes the technical side of this even more critical. You said the data needs to be structured and clean. What does that mean for an average real estate company trying to build this central nervous system?
It means we're moving way beyond simple HTML. The content has to be written for AI interpreters first, humans second. That means using things like schema markup, rich metadata, and just being factually consistent across the board. Now, for you listening, schema markup just means tagging your data so the AI knows exactly what everything is. This is a price, this is a bedroom count, this is a title number. Without that, the AI tutor doesn't trust your information. It changes how you even create content. It has to be machine readable first.
Okay, so if the website isn't a shop window, but more like an operating system built on clean data, let's talk about the actual tools that come out of that in the next 10 years. How do real estate sites go from being simple lists of properties to what the sources call an AI-powered property oracle?
The oracle idea is all about prediction and interpretation, not just showing you data. Future real estate sites will use these massive, diverse pools of data to interpret what a listing actually means in the real world. It's not just about what the seller or the agent says it means. It's about providing context, consequence.
So you're factoring in all this external data to give a better recommendation, connecting the property not just to its own four walls, but to the entire ecosystem around it. What kind of factors are we talking about here?
The list is pretty long, but our sources point to a few critical ones. Commute data is an obvious one, but it's weighed against lifestyle indicators, like how close you are to a gym or a cultural center. Crucially, they factor in reliable broadband. That's become a non-negotiable asset. Then you have up-to-the-minute crime statistics, cost of living data for that specific neighborhood, and even data from the local government about future development plans. Will a new highway be built nearby? Is a new school opening? All of that gets weighed instantly.
That completely changes the valuation process.
Yeah.
When you ask your AI advisor about a specific community, you get an answer based on all these external points. It's like a life score for the property, not just size and price.
That's the key metric shift. The AI can tell you, look, this house is perfectly priced for its size, but given the projected increase in travel time from roadworks over the next 2 years, we suggest you wait 6 months for a price correction. Or consider this alternative 5 miles away with better transport links. That's real intelligence driving a financial decision.
And this level of detail naturally pushes the whole thing towards voice and virtual agents, which is especially relevant for Jamaica, given how much people use mobile phones and, WhatsApp voice notes.
Absolutely. The sources specifically mention that habit with voice notes. It's going to accelerate AI voice dominance. Why type when you can just talk? In the next 10 years, voice will dominate how you interact with property sites. You will be filling out long forms. You'll just say a simple command like, find me a house in Manville under $40 million.
But the system has to handle much more complex stuff too, right? Not just simple searches.
Oh yeah, it escalates quickly. You move to functions like, save this listing, alert me if the price drops by 5%, and compare it to the next 2 properties I look at for mortgage eligibility. The voice interface becomes your central command and control for the whole journey.
And this is where AI agents come in. They basically replace those frustrating contact us forms we all hate, and they take over some of the more boring manual tasks agents do now. And we're not talking about glorified chatbots here. These are actually functional virtual agents.
They are intelligent agents, they talk like humans, but they have complete access to the entire data infrastructure. They can pull up the CRM data instantly, they schedule viewings directly based on your calendar and the agent's availability, and they can pre-qualify you on the spot by securely connecting to banking data, with your permission, of course.
Let's drill down on that negotiation part. The sources suggest these AI agents will go beyond just setting things up. They'll actively give advice.
This is a huge shift away from human emotion or sales pressure. Imagine you ask the AI agent, I love this house, but should I bid $5 million less? The AI doesn't give you a vague answer. It comes back with a data-driven response based on market history, comparable sales, how long the listing has been on the market, predicted interest rate changes. It's purely objective, quantitative advice.
So the era of static listings is just gone. If you combine that hyper-personalization, the conversational ability, and the live data, the future is really a live market dashboard.
That's what people will expect by 2032. Buyers want real-time insight, not last month's report. Everything updates live. You see live price changes, live demand indicators for that area, live neighborhood analytics reflecting new infrastructure, and even live rental projections if it's an investment. That level of transparency alone is a radical change.
And that transparency brings us to a really significant challenge mentioned in the sources, the historical trust issues in the Jamaican market, especially around land ownership. How does AI help solve such a deep-rooted problem?
AI provides this essential layer of transparency and objectivity that a human-centric system often lacks. It's like an impartial auditor. First, it automatically authenticates listings and verifies agents by checking against government registries. Second, and this is more sophisticated, it spots price anomalies. It can detect potential fraud patterns by looking at huge amounts of historical sales data, tax records, and title history.
So it's not just about speed, it's about building trust in the system itself, which means it has to connect with the ultimate source of that data, the government. The sources predict a lot of integration there in the next decade.
This is probably the most critical piece for the whole thing to work.
Sure.
Key entities like the National Land Agency, the NLA, which manages titles, and the Tax Administration, Jamaica, the TAJ. They have to provide structured data feeds to these platforms. It's essential for security and speed.
Okay, so what does that integration actually enable? What functions that are slow and manual today become instant when the NLA and TAA are feeding data directly to these platforms?
It allows for things that currently take weeks or months to happen in minutes. Instant title verification, retrieval of a complete tax history, accurate stamp duty projections, instantly checking the status of development approvals. If the platform can ping the NLA in real time about a title's authenticity, it revolutionizes the speed and safety of the whole transaction. And that's critical, especially for diaspora buyers who can't be there in person to chase documents. The time, the cost, the risk of fraud, it's virtually eliminated.
Okay, so let's fast forward our timeline now, past that 2035 integration phase. Let's look at the young Jamaican buyer in 2045. We have to talk about where they're starting from because they've grown up in a completely different world, a world of constant simulation and data transparency.
This generation has really grown up in simulation. We're talking AI-guided schoolwork, personalized career advice, entertainment in fully immersive virtual platforms. By the time they're teens, they're used to navigating these interactive 3D virtual tours of neighborhoods and buildings. So for them, the idea of a digital twin is just the default expectation. It's not some fancy new thing. And the digital twin is maybe the most profound change in how property is seen, assessed, and valued. Every serious investment-grade property in major urban areas, Kingston, Montego Bay, Portmore, will have a living digital twin. And we have to stress the word living. This isn't just a one-off 3D model. It's a constantly updated, data-rich virtual copy of the physical building.
What kind of specific data points does this living digital twin show you that a static photo or even a virtual tour today just can't?
It shows you not just how the home looks, but how it behaves and performs over time. This includes its complete maintenance history, every single repair. It tracks real-time data like current energy use, projected utility costs, even its environmental performance.
Give me an example of how granular this data gets. What's a standard detail that would impress a buyer in 2045?
It captures these really specific, evocative details that influence your life there and the cost. The twin can show you precisely how the home might flood during a Category 4 hurricane using predictive modeling. It can analyze the roof design's performance at high wind speeds based on sensor data. And yes, it can show you things like how the afternoon light hits the veranda in October. It lets you connect emotionally with the space, but it's grounded in hard data. It moves viewing from a sentimental visual thing to an objective analysis of performance.
This dramatically changes the baseline of what sophisticated buyers demand. If they've grown up with these tools, they're not going to be impressed by surface-level stuff, the nice gate, the big grill. They're demanding verifiable, objective performance metrics that translate directly into long-term cost and security.
That's the new baseline. The 2045 buyer is sophisticated because their AI assistants have trained them to be analytical since they were kids. They demand to know 4 new metrics that completely push aside sentimentality.
Okay, what else?
1. Risk profile. How does it handle climate hazards like storms and flooding? 2. Income potential. What's the verified rental yield or its tokenization value? 3. Carbon footprint. How efficient is its energy use? And 4. Digital rating. How clean is its data history and how ready is it for integration into smart systems?
So if you're a developer today building a new apartment block, you're not just building with concrete and steel. You're building a data asset that has to be able to generate and maintain a perfect digital twin. Otherwise, the 2045 buyer will just ignore it.
Exactly. Without that verifiable, rich data history and the living digital twin, the property lacks the foundation to even participate in the future market. It becomes a requirement for liquidity. A property with a bad digital rating, inconsistent records, no sensor data, a poor climate risk score, it will be severely penalized in the market. It might even become unmarketable or only sell at a huge discount. The data asset is just as valuable as the physical one.
Let's move from just looking at a property to actually owning it, because this is where the financial and legal worlds go through their most radical change. The concept of tokenization, turning assets into digital tokens you can own fractionally on a blockchain, it's already a global trend, but how big is its predicted impact on the historically rigid ownership structures in Jamaica?
Globally, the projection for tokenized real estate is staggering. It's expected to reach into the trillions of US dollars by the mid-2030s. By 2040, the sources suggest this technology goes from being something for high finance to being completely ordinary. It democratizes the entry point into property ownership, which has historically been locked behind these massive capital requirements.
And this leads to that revolutionary idea of buying a piece instead of a whole lot. A 19-year-old Jamaican won't need to save for a massive down payment just to get a foot in the door. How does that fractional ownership model work in practice?
The barrier to entry just shifts dramatically. It goes from needing a huge deposit to just being able to invest small amounts consistently. Imagine a young university student. Their first investment might be a 2% fractional stake in a brand new apartment block in New Kingston, or maybe 5% of a small eco-villa development in Portland. These stakes are held as legally recognized digital tokens, and they're directly backed by the physical land title, which itself is now a secure digital record.
That immediately opens things up. So what are the benefits of this fractional ownership for that young investor who doesn't have a lot of capital?
The benefits are huge, and they directly solve the bottlenecks in traditional real estate. First, it lets them start investing from their teens with small, manageable amounts of money. It democratizes access. Second, they can build a truly diverse portfolio instantly. They could own pieces of property in Kingston, Montego Bay, and tokenize stakes in developments abroad, all tracked in one digital wallet on their phone.
And crucially, liquidity. Real estate is traditionally seen as highly illiquid. It takes months to sell a house. Tokenization seems to solve that problem completely.
It does. They gain quick exit capability. If they suddenly need cash for school or to fund a down payment on their own full home, their 2% stake can be traded instantly on regulated digital markets. It solves the liquidity problem. They also get real-time performance tracking. They can see rental yields, occupancy rates, and price movement of their asset instantly.
This sounds like a powerful way to open the door that's currently bolted shut for many Jamaicans, as one source put it. It shifts ownership from the few who can gather massive capital to the many who can start small and grow their portfolio over time.
That's the potential for mass economic empowerment right there. But to enable tokenization, you first have to solve the bureaucracy problem. And that brings us to the invisible paperwork enabled by smart contracts.
Let's be honest, today, a simple property transaction in Jamaica can take months of manual processing, bank queues, anxious calls between lawyers. Smart contracts built on blockchain promise to get rid of that friction. How does that automated execution change the process?
Smart contracts are self-executing digital agreements. They live on a secure, distributed ledger, and they execute automatically when predefined conditions are met. The system verifies everything with its integrated data feeds. This means the system handles secure digital signatures, automated fund transfers, instant identity verification, all without a human having to intervene.
So all that legal work that used to involve months of chasing paper bank statements, title verifications, stamp duty payments is just gone. How long does the transaction take?
It moves from months to minutes. When the final payment condition is met, the smart contract instantaneously releases the funds to the seller, pays the taxes to the TIJ, and, critically, sends the verified ownership update to the NLA, effectively transferring the digital title instantly. This dramatically reduces fraud, human error, and the time cost of the old paper-based systems.
But if the transaction is automatic and decentralized, who handles disputes? What if there's a problem with the house after the sale, or the smart contract fails somehow?
That's a critical question, and the sources do touch on this. While the execution is automated, the legal framework still needs to allow for a human-mediated dispute resolution. The role of the lawyer changes completely. They become experts in structuring complex deals and resolving disputes within the digital framework, instead of being glorified paper chasers at the titles office. The blockchain's history is always clear, but you still need human legal expertise to interpret a contractual breach.
And the impact on the National Land Titles Office, an institution traditionally defined by paper archives, must be the most profound consequence of all.
It is. Land registry updates happen in minutes, not months. The land title itself becomes a secure digital record, tied seamlessly to the property's digital twin and its tokenized pieces. For a country where trust and transparency in land ownership have, historically been a continuous headache, this shift towards immutable, instant digital records is maybe the most necessary mutation of all. It solves a decades-old structural problem.
Okay, moving from the financial and digital side, we have to talk about what becomes the absolute core metric of value in 2045, climate resilience. The sources are very clear that this generation of buyers will have been shaped by intense, memorable weather events. Risk assessment will be paramount.
This is the climate reality generation. They grew up through more intense hurricanes, stronger rains, longer droughts. They remember events like Melissa and whatever came after. For them, climate reality isn't some abstract future risk on the news. It's a lived experience that dictates their security, their financial stability, their safety.
Which means a profound psychological shift in what property features even matter. Buyers are going to be, as the source says, less sentimental about sea view and more concerned about storm surge maps. Sentimentality gives way to objective, data-driven risk assessment.
That is the new calculus of property value. When you're buying a home in coastal Jamaica, the historical emotional pull of a great view is now heavily weighed against the immediate visible risk of storm surge or landslides. The buyer's main question changes from, is it beautiful and convenient, to, is it resilient and insurable? It's a move from desirability to durability.
And the digital twin plays a critical role here, not just as a virtual tour, but as a dynamic predictive risk model. How does it incorporate environmental modeling and sensor data to give you that insight?
Because the twin is living, it integrates data from complex environmental models, like historical hurricane tracks and floodplain simulations, with actual physical sensor data from the home itself. A buyer can pull up the data on their phone and see precisely how a proposed home handled previous storms in its immediate area.
I can just imagine running a simulation. Show me this property during a hypothetical Category 4 storm surge.
Precisely. They can model the proximity of floodwaters, analyze the roof design's performance at high wind speeds based on certified engineering data, and assess the heat resilience of the structure during a long heat wave. This turns the buying process into a quantified exercise in risk management. You can compare the performance ratings of two properties side by side.
And I think the most powerful force for making this happen is external and purely financial insurance pricing.
Absolutely. Insurance pricing acts as the final, unforgiving market enforcer. The sources are unambiguous about this. Poorly sited or badly built properties, those with low climate resilience scores, will simply become too expensive, maybe even impossible, to insure at an affordable rate.
That's huge financial pressure. If you can't get affordable insurance, you can't get a mortgage, and your pool of potential buyers just shrinks dramatically.
It creates this powerful financial feedback loop. Climate resilience is no longer an optional upgrade or a little green badge. It becomes a non-negotiable baseline of property value. Developers who invest in flood-resilient foundations, advanced roofing systems, and sustainable utilities are rewarded with lower insurance premiums. And that becomes a major selling point and a core value indicator for the 2045 buyer. The market financially rewards intelligent design and punishes negligence.
Let's pivot now to the broader environment. All these tech changes, AI agents, digital twins, tokenization, they all require massive infrastructure support. And that leads us directly into the concept of Caribbean smart districts by 2040. What do our sources suggest this looks like for places like Kingston or Montego Bay?
Discussions around smart cities are already happening in Jamaica, specifically targeting existing, dense urban areas like New Kingston, Portmore, and Montego Bay. The focus isn't on building brand new futuristic cities from scratch. It's on retrofitting and managing the infrastructure we already have with integrated intelligence.
What are the main goals of these districts, especially when it comes to easing everyday life and using land more efficiently?
The functionality is all about optimization, security, and resource management. We're talking about zones where energy use is automatically optimized across the grid and inside buildings using networked sensors. Buildings will be designed with their digital twins from day one, ensuring compliance and data collection for their whole lifespan. Security is integrated through unified systems that use predictive AI to allocate resources.
And considering the climate reality we just talked about, risk modeling must be central to these smart districts.
Absolutely. In sensitive areas like hillside communities prone to landslides or flood-prone zones, development will be guided by much stricter data-driven risk modeling. Zoning decisions become automated based on projected climate impact, moving beyond old historical maps to dynamic, predictive risk assessment. The goal is to move beyond just managing traffic to managing resources and resilience holistically.
The sources also hint at infrastructure innovations inspired by global figures, things like tunnels, elevated transport, systems designed to reclaim surface land from parking lots. If any of that happens, the impact on commuting would be monumental.
It would fundamentally redefine quality of life and the economic value of location. I mean, imagine in Jamaica, where getting from Portmore to New Kingston is no longer the daily war it can be today. By easing that congestion, these smart districts make remote and suburban areas viable again because travel time, not physical distance, is what determines true livability.
Which means the value of location itself shifts drastically. It's no longer just about being physically near town or beachfront.
Correct. The ultimate location value is defined by being plugged in. That means plugged into stable, high-speed broadband, efficient transport networks, resilient utilities that don't fail, and rich community data feeds. A property 10 miles away with perfect broadband and a high-speed transport link becomes objectively more valuable than one 2 miles away buried in congestion with unreliable utilities. Digital access becomes the premium amenity.
And finally, we have to talk about the blurring of the physical and digital line. For the 2045 generation, property exists fully in digital spaces, and they'll use digital assets to fund their physical security. What are some examples of this digital property they might own?
For this generation, property is no longer just land and concrete. They might own rentable virtual storefronts inside immersive platforms, the metaverse or whatever comes next, and treat them as verifiable income-generating assets. Because of tokenization, they can hold easily traded fractional stakes in physical developments abroad without ever leaving Jamaica.
And how do they bridge that gap back to the physical world? Can they use their digital assets as collateral?
Yes, they can use their physical home's digital twin, that verified data-rich asset with an undeniable performance history, as collateral in new flexible lending products. They can leverage the security and transparency of the twin to get favorable terms.
The sources even give a tangible example of how a young person could use digital wealth to achieve traditional homeownership.
It's the perfect illustration of the new economy. Imagine a young Jamaican creative in 2042 who primarily earns income from digital property like virtual venues or tokenized content. That steady, verifiable digital income stream allows them to accumulate enough capital to fund the deposit for a small but critically resilient physical home in a less developed parish, like Clarendon or St. Mary. The digital world becomes the stable springboard into physical security.
As we stand here in 2025 talking about this future, it's worth turning the lens back and thinking about how our current ways of doing things will look to that 2045 buyer. Our sources spend some time outlining what will seem primitive or even just puzzling.
It's a very humbling exercise. From the perspective of a 2045 buyer, our current systems will look slow, opaque, inefficient, and full of unnecessary friction. They'll be genuinely puzzled by some of the things we just accept as normal today.
Let's run through that list, starting with the basic viewing process, making a huge decision based on so little data.
They will be baffled that people once made one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives based on just a few low-res photos and a rushed 30-minute viewing that might have been staged. Having grown up with immersive 3D digital twins, full data histories, and climate risk models, the idea of committing to a house based on just a surface-level visual impression will seem almost reckless, financially irresponsible.
And then there's the bureaucratic nightmare of the paperwork and title security.
They will find it just inexplicable that land titles were physical documents stored in vulnerable offices that could have a fire or a flood or just simple human misfiling. For a generation that operates on secure, immutable blockchain records and expects title transfers in minutes, the idea of a multi-month paper-based titles process requiring physical travel and human verification will be completely archaic.
The diaspora connection is another point of confusion. Diaspora Jamaicans drive so much investment into the island, but the current systems are so complex and rely so much on personal trust.
This is a major inefficiency that creates social friction. The 2045 buyer will be puzzled that their parents sent millions of dollars through informal channels, relying heavily on personal relationships, often without clear, verifiable visibility into what they are actually buying or the status of their investment. The tokenized, verifiable system of the future removes that reliance on informal channels and personal trust by replacing it with institutional, algorithmic trust.
And finally, the reliance on social capital and the failure to learn from climate events.
Right. The market today often depends heavily on who you knew, rather than on objective data and systems that are accessible to everyone. The 2045 market, guided by transparent AI data, will find that strange and inequitable. And furthermore, the practice of repeatedly rebuilding storm-damaged houses the exact same vulnerable way without making climate risk assessment mandatory will seem incomprehensibly naive to a generation that has been forced to prioritize durability.
But the sources suggest the biggest shock won't even be the technology itself. It will be the social realization of what came before.
That's the profound difference. The 2045 buyer will realize how many opportunities for ownership, investment, financial growth were locked away from previous generations simply because the systems were opaque, slow, and manual. That technological inefficiency created social inequality by increasing the friction, the time, and the capital required to build wealth.
For them, the standard will be that any serious property has 5 non-negotiable features: a verified digital identity, a rich data history, a clear climate record, a tokenized ownership option, and seamless integration with their AI advisor. Anything less will be seen as a liability, making it basically unmarketable.
For all this talk of AI and digital twins and smart contracts, it's so important to bring the discussion back to the fundamentals, the enduring heart of Jamaican real estate. The shift is technological, yes, but the core human desires remain constant. Technology is the instrument. Human intention is still the conductor.
What are those constant fundamental things that AI and smart contracts can't eliminate or replace?
The sources confirm that the core human desires endure. The dream of owning a piece of yard. That's a deeply cultural idea of longing, security, and legacy. The importance of family land will still hold immense emotional and practical value, even if the title is digital. And emotional ties to specific communities and parishes will still be powerful drivers.
So the market tensions we see today, gentrification, land politics, renting versus owning, they'll still exist, but they'll just be played out on a smarter, faster, and more data-driven stage.
Exactly. The core conflicts persist, but the system used to manage them will be radically different. The ultimate desire for security, dignity, and a place to call your own remains the driving force, regardless of whether that ownership is represented by paper or a tokenized asset.
This future, though it seems inevitable based on global trends, isn't guaranteed for Jamaica. It requires intentional, committed action. What infrastructure, policy, and education frameworks does the country need to commit to make sure this future is realized for everyone?
The sources stress that this transparent, efficient future is only achievable if Jamaica chooses to build the infrastructure, the policy frameworks, and the education to match the technology. This means immediate, nationwide investment in reliable, high-speed broadband. That's the central nervous system of the entire future economy.
And on the policy side, the legal framework has to catch up to the technology.
Absolutely. You need clear legal frameworks for digital property, smart contracts, and digital collateral. Government agencies like the NLA and AGJ have to be fully supported in their digital transformation to ensure their data is trusted and reliable. And finally, you need a fundamental retraining of the workforce, from real estate agents who become tech-enabled advisors to title officers who have to learn to manage immutable digital ledgers.
Finally, let's talk about brand. If every website is intelligent, every transaction is automated, and every platform is integrated, then the technology itself isn't the differentiator anymore. Brand identity, integrity, experience, that has to become the core competitive advantage.
In an AI-mediated world, the power shifts away from what a brand claims it is, its slogans, and toward what the algorithms deduce from its behavior and its data integrity. The sources quote this perfectly. In the age of AI, your brand isn't what you say it is. It's what the algorithms deduce from how you behave. This means being consistent, providing accurate, well-structured data, designing for trust, and maintaining high integrity in every transaction. AI amplifies strong, trustworthy brands and swiftly makes weak, inconsistent ones invisible.
And this all leads to an incredible opportunity, a chance for a great leap forward, the chance to solve decades of structural problems in one technological mutation.
Yes, the leapfrog opportunity. By embracing these changes early, by building the digital and policy infrastructure now, Jamaica has the chance to skip older, inefficient technologies and move directly into a future where real estate is more transparent, where climate risk is seriously addressed in every building decision, where ownership is genuinely accessible to more people through tokenization. The future is entirely plausible, but it requires the intentional work to match the policy to the profound technological potential. Hashtag outro.
This has been a truly fascinating and comprehensive journey to 2045. We've explored a complete revolution in how we search for property with conversational AI, how we own it through tokenization and invisible smart contracts, and how we assess its real worth based on living digital twins and a non-negotiable commitment to climate resilience.
The biggest takeaway, I think, is that technology is fundamentally changing the structure of the market to promote transparency and efficiency. It's solving long-standing issues with trust, opacity, and accessibility. It's moving property ownership away from a costly, month-long battle with bureaucracy and toward a smooth, data-driven, almost utility-like experience.
So we'll leave you with this final, provocative thought straight from the source. The internet changed how we publish information. AI will fundamentally change how we exist within economic systems. Look around your own life, beyond property. Consider the systems you use every day that are still slow and manual, your banking, your medical records, your tax filings. Which one of those slow manual systems will AI hit first and reinvent to demand instant, transparent data? And ultimately, what piece of your yard, physical or digital, will you be buying or fractionalizing in that tokenized future?